Deep, intensely flavored ramen broth doesn't have to take days. There's a way to keep the rich flavor while speeding up the process. Check out this technique for Instant Pot Beef Ramen. You love the flavors of a bowl of ramen, but don't have time to make the broth from scratch. Let's make a version that's inspired by the traditional flavors while utilizing a pressure cooker and some prepared ingredients to significantly cut down the amount of time. You can create a soup that tastes like it took all day to prepare in just over an hour.
For the full list of ingredients and the recipe, check out the link in the description. This recipe all starts with some beautiful certified Angus beef short ribs. They're perfect for this dish because they're on the bone, which will give extra flavor to the broth. They also have a little bit of fat on them, which will add a nice richness to the broth as well. The marbling in short ribs is what really keeps them juicy when pressure cooking in the Instant Pot. We're skipping searing this time. You're still gonna build tons of flavor to this broth. Using unsalted beef broth or stock is a good base flavor because stock from scratch, even in the Instant Pot, still takes a while. This will be the base and the short ribs will fortify that beefy flavor. Make sure to use unsalted broth. We have plenty of other ingredients going in that contain sodium. Use a good soy sauce for the broth, dark if you can find it. Just make sure to use top-notch soy sauce where one of the first ingredients is soybeans. We'll use green onions in two ways. The firmer stalk and whites will flavor the broth, and the greens will be a nice garnish and fresh crunch on the final bowl. We'll add some ginger and garlic. No need to peel the skins from these, since the broth will be strained later. Just crush the garlic and give the ginger a rough chop. Reserve the scallion tops for garnish and add everything to the Instant Pot. All of these aromatics combined with the short ribs will really intensify the flavor of that store-bought broth. Fortifying a store-bought broth is a great shortcut to make an intensely flavored soup. While that pressure cooks, you can work on the rest of the ingredients and the garnishes for this dish. Bring 3 quarts of water to a boil and remove 2 cups. Pour that over a ½ ounce of dried shiitake mushrooms and allow to rehydrate. I like to use a little plastic wrap right on the surface of the water so that the mushrooms stay submerged. The hot water will hydrate the mushrooms and the mushrooms will make a flavorful broth out of the water. Now we can carefully add our eggs to the boiling water. 7 minutes will get you soft-boiled eggs with a nice jammy center. Once the time has elapsed, plunge them into ice water. This will immediately stop them from cooking and also help so that the shell is easier to remove. Green onion is a classic garnish for a bowl of ramen, but no need to get fancy with the knife cuts. Just slice them up into rounds and set them aside for later. Peeling eggs can be a hassle, and it's always hardest to get them started. There's usually a little air bubble that forms at the bottom. If you can find it, it's a good place to start the peeling. I like to put them right back into the ice water so any fragments of shell that might remain will be rinsed off. Now that the shiitakes have rehydrated, you can start to cut them up. Just lightly squeeze a little of the liquid out so they aren't too juicy when slicing them up. At this point, you could remove the stem if you want. They can be a little woody. I don't mind them, so I'll just leave them on. Make sure to keep the steeping liquid from the mushrooms. We'll use that later to make another layer of flavor for the broth. Cutting the mushrooms into long slices will look really nice as a garnish, and it will be easier to eat since they're a similar shape to the noodles. Reserve the mushrooms with the green onion and cover with a wet paper towel to keep everything from drying out. When the broth has finished cooking and had time to naturally depressurize for 20 minutes, remove the short ribs from the Instant Pot. Now you can either strain the broth or skim it to remove the green onion, garlic, and ginger. Set the pot to saute and bring the broth to a simmer. Here's where we have another couple shortcuts to deepen the flavor of the broth. Pour in the reserved mushroom liquid, then add a quarter cup of mirin. Finally, we'll use 2 1-ounce packets of instant miso soup mix. Traditional ramen uses a dashi of bonito and kombu. Miso soup uses this same base along with the addition of miso paste. This is a quick and easy way to bump up the umami and deepen the flavor of the broth. To reheat the soft-boiled eggs, you can add them right to the simmering broth, reduce the heat, and warm through for 5 minutes. The short ribs have cooled enough to handle, so we can slice them up for serving. Just trim off any excess fat and slice them off the bone. The technique for cooking these short ribs is perfect for this recipe because they are tender but not quite shreddable. This way we can cut them into slices and lay them on top of the noodles. The grain runs with the length of the bone, so just slice against the grain in 1/4-inch slices. Remove the eggs from the broth and bring some water to a boil for the noodles. We're using a nice ramen noodle for this, not the curly stuff that comes in a packet. These will have a nicer chew to them and really pick up the broth. A chopstick across the top of the boiling water helps to prevent boil over by breaking up the surface tension of the bubbles. Make sure to drain your noodles well and don't rinse them. Just immediately divide them up amongst 4 bowls. Put a good portion of noodles into the bowl first, then pour over the hot broth. The noodles will start to soak up the broth and pick up the flavor of the soup. Here's where we'll add all those garnishes. It looks nice to have little mounds of the ingredients. Shiitake's on one side, and look how nice those slices of short rib are. Shredded short rib is great, but the slices make the presentation a little more impressive. Some green onions add a pop of color, and I like to add a little sheet of nori for garnish. Time for the big reveal. We'll cut the egg in half, and look at how jammy that egg yolk is. Soft-boiled egg is a great finishing touch to a bowl of ramen. A dusting of sashimi togarashi will add a kick of spice and a nice pop of red to a beautiful bowl of ramen.
Now that I got this bowl built, I just gotta dig in. First, I wanna try some of these noodles. Ooh, that broth, so flavorful. That little bit of togarashi on there gives a nice spice. Finally, this beef. The texture's perfect. This is a really quick and easy way to curb that ramen craving. We'll see you next time here in the test kitchen at Certified Angus Beef.